Good evening and welcome to the May 20th Warrensville High City School District regular school board meeting. Want to take time to thank everyone for joining us this evening. There's so many things you could be doing, but you're here with us and we're glad to have you. At this time, as we call the meeting to order, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Mrs. Moomin?
She's on mute.
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Here.
Oh, I already said that. I'm sorry. Mr. Roberts?
Here.
Mr. Freeman? Oh, he's there somewhere. Mr.
He's
Freeman?
there. He's on mute. Ray?
Yeah, someone's got to unmute me.
I did.
Here.
And Mrs. Moomin's there too. And Miss Mitchell?
Here. I don't know why I can't pull Barbara off mute. All right, at this time, we're going to go on with the agenda. We're going to go to item 1.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. And Member Earl, Member Roberts, can you please recite the Pledge of Allegiance on behalf of the board?
Yes, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pull the agenda up at this time. Hold on a second here. I am going to pull the meeting up. Just give me a sec. And there we go. Can everyone see the agenda?
No, it's not shared.
No.
Your screen's
Okay.
not shared.
Hold on a second. Not sure why it's doing that. Here we go. Now let's try it. Now we're all ready to go. We're on item 1.3, the approval of tonight's agenda. Dr. Rock, Mr. Jolley, are there any additional items to be added or anything to be removed from the agenda?
No, we did add this afternoon the summer school credit recovery. So that was added this afternoon. I did email the board to inform them that the names were coming.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Rock?
No, everything's in.
All righty, board members, anything that we're adding to this evening? All right, thank you so much. At this time, may I have a motion on the floor to approve item 1.3, tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve 1.3, approval of tonight's agenda for May 20th, 2020, regular board meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin?
She's still on mute.
I think, okay, she keeps putting,
Can you vote with the high sign? Say yes.
can you just wave right now, Barbara? I'm not sure why you can't get off mute. Okay.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Miss Mitchell?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is approval of our minutes. And we need a motion on the floor to approve the minutes for the February 5th work session, February 19th regular meeting, the March 4th work session, and the March 11th special meeting, all in the year 2020.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve 1.4, approval of minutes. And the minutes are February 5th, 2020 work session meeting, February 19th, 2020 regular meeting, March 4th, 2020 work session meeting, and March 11, 2020 special meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin.
She's saying thumbs up.
Okay. Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. At this time, I'm going to stop our screen share. We are on item 1.5. And at this point, we'll let Mr. Jolley take the floor and he will do his superintendent update.
Yes, greetings, board. I'd just like to, I have a few things to go through. I do have Doug on the line. Doug will discuss Westwood, and we will also take any questions about the lease for the new Board of Education. At this time, we have Jason on the phone also. But first, I'd just like to thank the graduation committee. The committee, everyone, all board members were there yesterday, and we streamed it live and on YouTube for an outstanding graduation in this tough time where we were all trying to figure out how we were going to get this done for these students. The team came together and came up with a great plan. So I'd just like to thank the team, Delmar Calhoun, Rachel Way, Dr. Reynolds, Mr. Rails, Ms. Stitt, Mr. Hurt, Dr. Caver, Ruth Ray, Ms. Berlin, Ms. Fitch, Ms. Radford, Dr. Reynolds. Am I missing anybody who's on the committee? Dr. Reynolds, am I missing anybody on the committee? You on mute?
He's off.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I think you covered everyone.
Right. Yeah. And you know, the plan evolved from various different plans till we came up with that plan. Also, a special thanks to Kayla. Kayla did an outstanding job getting the videos together, working with the production company. And also a special thanks to Kim Mack, because Kim Mack worked with the Lander Haven, and she was our connect with Lander Haven, and we were able to get it done with her. So a kudos to the graduation team for the outstanding work. I know the board knows it was on Channel 3 News yesterday, Cleveland.com, Facebook. You know, a lot of people have are modeling after us. I was told today that Beaumont is doing the same thing we're doing. So in upcoming weeks, Beaumont will have a drive-in graduation at Lander Haven, just like the Westwood Heights Tiger. So I think we pride ourselves in being cutting edge and in front. I think as we continue this journey, having the best minds at the table and getting things done, we will continue that process. Second thing I want to talk about today is the administration recommendations. As you know, on this agenda, we have some recommendations for administration. We have a school closing. We have three schools closing, combining into one. We have some wellness funds, and at this time are very vital with COVID-19 and all the things that go with COVID-19, having somebody that will spearhead our drive and also help us with innovation and technology. So at this time, I just want to announce what my recommendations will be for the board. Again, this is all pending board approval. But my first recommendation is that Mr. Rafiq Vaughn will move to the high school, the new high school principal. Mr. Vaughn has background in high school. He was part of one of our interview committees before. He has done an outstanding job at Westwood. And from his background and experience, he is a great candidate to take over the high school and to continue the growth of the high school. Dr. Reynolds, the recommendation that he moves to a new position that the board approved already is the Director of Innovation and Wellness. This is a very vital position in our district at this time, because this position will spearhead our COVID-19 response, will be responsible for the day-to-day implementation of policies and procedures with COVID-19. This is a crucial position. It is funded by the wellness funds from the state of Ohio. And we believe and know that Dr. Reynolds has the skills and know how to do a great job with this position. And the third recommendation, as we close our schools, is that Miss Andrea Bishop serves as the principal of both Eastwood and Westwood to start the school year. As we move into our new building, she will be responsible for grades 2 to 5 at our new building. So we're just giving her a heads up, a head start on her new assignment at the new high school. Ms. Bishop again has extensive knowledge, has done a great job at Eastwood, earned the grade of a B. And she's great with building relationships with staff and parents. And I believe that she has the skills to manage 2 schools at the same time. Now, we do need to get her some assistance, so we will look internal on how we can provide assistance at both schools for her. And I'll talk a little bit later about the budget and some decisions that we have to make, and we are making about the budget and foreseeable future on some possible budget losses that we have, and we're trying to rectify at this time. I will also today, we did send a back to work letter to our employees who are 210 and above. The governor yesterday released the safe stay at home order. So at this time, we are requiring our employees to come back to work on next, the 26th. Our task force, next week we'll have Ms. Hunt, Lester, and Mr. Reynolds, Dr. Reynolds, I'm sorry, monitor and make sure that we are practicing the recommendations for return to work. But we are looking at bringing people back. In our first observation, most people are working in spaces that are 6 feet apart. There's 1 person in the office. So we believe we are meeting those requirements, and we will erect barriers where people interact with others. So we've already erected a barrier at the high school. I mean, not at the high school, at the Board of Education. We'll be erecting barriers in other places. Mr. McDonald will start that process immediately. The 4th thing I want to discuss is the Westwood. As you know, we had our team going to John Dewey to review John Dewey to see if we could possibly move our pre-K or keep our pre-K in John Dewey. Last Thursday, our team went into Westwood, and Doug will share what the findings were and what his recommendations are.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Doug.
Thank you. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Yes, so as Mr. Jolley said, last week, Sean and his team were able to go and visit Westwood, and they looked at it from a construction standpoint to see what the existing conditions of the building were. And we're kind of comparing that as we did with John Dewey. So they found that they did not see the water infiltration problems that were apparent at John Dewey. However, they did have the same roof treatment that had been taken care of to try to prevent leaks. So we're still faced with the inevitable failure of that system. And unfortunately, when that system fails, it's going to call for a complete removal and replacement. So there's a couple different things that we looked at with the building. A little different than John Dewey because you already have your pre-K at John Dewey. If we were going to relocate to Westwood, there are different requirements for a pre-K and for daycare situations. So they have licensing requirements, as you know, but they also have requirements for toilet fixtures for inside the classrooms. So right now, from what I can see, is we have 2 kindergarten classrooms inside Westwood that have bathrooms inside those. However, for other classrooms to be used for daycare facility or for pre-K, we would need to add bathroom facilities. We have to hand washing facilities inside each of those classrooms. So we did not do a detailed cost estimate, but with the big picture of taking a look at what we would need to do to actually relocate the students, first we would have to go ahead and we would have to make modifications, architectural modifications. So we would have to hire an architect to go ahead and do the design. We'd have permitting, and then we would have construction associated with that. The concerns that we would have with that investment is that we still have a building that was built in 1960. And so it's at the kind of the end of its useful life. So kind of that investment would probably not be a great investment because it's not a long-term investment. We would also have costs where we need to think about, we're going to be using about 5,000, maybe 7,000 square feet of the building, where we have it's about a 39,000 square foot building. So we would have to be operating that facility. We would have to be maintaining it, and we would probably have, we're thinking about 5 classrooms that we would have occupying the facility. So for those reasons, we're not really recommending that we go ahead and proceed with relocating the students over to Westwood. Based on what we looked at all of these items, what our recommendation is the pre-K has been designed for, the new elementary school has been designed for pre-K. We know Mr. Jolley was trying to address the enrollment issue that the district is kind of blessed with right now. But the reality is right now we can move them. We have furniture that we can go ahead and get for the pre-K. We can move 5 of them over. It's already in the budget. It's already in the schedule. So that's an easy transition. Though it doesn't address the enrollment growth issue right now, it does give you time to go ahead and look how to invest or other locations or other opportunities to have a more long-term investment for that. One of the other issues that Sean brought up is, we have between the segment 1 and the segment 2, we have limited funds that we're trying to manage, and ultimately we will be demolishing those buildings. And so we need to make sure that we have the money for the demolition of those buildings. So that was another concern, is that we're going to put more money investing into a building to relocate students for 3, 5, maybe 10 years, but then ultimately we need to demolish that building. So I know
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
if there's anybody that has any question, hopefully I wasn't rambling too fast, but I did have a memo that I developed that kind of shows the process, the thought process with our assessment. But to summarize, we got licensure issues, we have move costs, we have architectural costs. It would be a large investment to go ahead and do that. And the concern is that long-term, we're going to have to maintain the building, operate the building, and we still need to find a way to address the enrollment problem for a long-term solution.
And that's the board's ultimate decision will be based upon what you want to invest in, because ultimately we are investing in buildings that are have not been well maintained over the last 30 years. And ultimately, one boiler from $100,000, $200,000 break, or a roof, as Doug said, which could be up to $200, $250, because in 15, what they did was spray that foam on the roof, which when you have leaks in that foam, you can't just repair it. You have to tear the whole roof off. So with that said, the recommendation that is that Westwood is not used as the pre-K, and that we put, as Doug said, put everybody into the new elementary school. With that, we also have to prepare, and I will say this, that, with COVID-19 and all these, registration has not been as brisk as it normally is. We normally have our March into Kindergarten and other things that people have been on stay at home and all those things. So right now we can handle everybody that's in the going into the new school. We're good. But in the future, I will say this, the board needs to really need to evaluate how much a new addition will cost to the new pre-K to 5 building. And what I envision is we build basically a nursery school attachment for pre-K. So not as extensive. We wouldn't have to build gyms. We wouldn't have to build cafeterias. None of that. We just build classroom space. So I think that's the conversation that we in the future, as we look at enrollment and as the enrollment grows, we need to start getting that on, start thinking about that. And Dr. Rock, figuring out how we can afford to put on $1 million, $1.5 million addition to that new facility. Any questions?
Yes, sir, Superintendent.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with the enrollment that we have and our projected growth, what would be our anticipated time frame where we will reach capacity in the new school?
So if COVID-19, this situation didn't hit, we was close to this year hitting it.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, we were close because we already have 7 kindergarten classrooms, which will equate to 7 first grade classrooms. So, but the anticipation this year is the kindergarten numbers. We don't know what the kindergarten numbers are going to be because of the slowness of way things are at this time. But I anticipate within 2 to 3 years, as our grades continue to improve, as the city continues to build new houses and grow, as new businesses come into the community, people gonna come here. And, you know, some of the things that we're doing are gonna attract students too. You know, just the programming and the great teachers and principals we have. So I would say within 2 to 3 years, we might have to look at our option, as Warrensville did probably in the early 2000s, where they opened up a kindergarten at where was it, right next to the Board of Education. They did that as a temporary fix. So I think those are things that we got to stay ahead of and thinking about at all times, because as we flourish, and that's our vision from day one, to continue to flourish, and we will continue to flourish. We got to prepare for the future, and the future before COVID-19 was pushing us
right up to the
we were
brink.
going to be at capacity going in. But right now, I think we're safe to say we will get this through this year, hopefully comfortable.
Okay, so if it's gonna be 2 to 3 years and we're gonna need, need a new wing or need a new space, we probably need to get started on that like now, then, basically now.
Right, and I think we will start those conversations to price it out, to see, what the cost would be, to see how we can, get those plans in place while we have Doug, working with us at this time before they go.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Board, are there any other questions?
I do, Madam Chair, have a question for Superintendent Jolley. It actually pertains to Doug too. Now, I know going into 2020, whenever we open up, we can actually keep everything in plan that you have now. We don't need to actually look at the pre-K for this 2021 season.
As far as we are building facilities now, and we have furniture that we're going to get so that it's designed into the building now. So yes, we'll be able to go ahead and we have 5 pre-K classrooms that are constructed in the building now.
I got you. Superintendent Jolley, so would we keep possibly the pre-K at Westwood, or you want to move them direct? Okay, so you're going to move them direct.
It didn't sound like it.
Yeah, we want to put everybody in the new school, Mr.
I got
Freeman.
you.
Just, and then again, the board, the conversations that we were starting in March about the 3 buildings, we got to restart those conversations with the community to discuss what will happen to those 3 buildings. Because again, we have people with interest in so the board will have to come up with how we resolve those issues relatively soon, because all 3 buildings per our schedule are ready for demolition next summer. They already had dates already set. So we need to have those meetings. We could do them like this, or we probably gonna have to do Zoom meetings, Zoom community meetings to, lay out our plan. And I can set those dates. We could do it in the summer. We could do it in early fall. I will send recommendations to you guys, and you can affirm them or give your feedback on it.
One other question.
Jolley. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
Superintendent
Freeman.
Jolley, so we're almost back to the master plan in 2015, where OFCC wanted us to demolish the 3 buildings.
Yeah, we back to the original
Master.
plan. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Jolley, we also have an opportunity there that we haven't earmarked anything for, that we could have an opportunity to earmark some funds that may be raised when we sell, when we sell the 3 properties. That may add up to, that may get us halfway there. And then 2 other things could come into play. One can be if the new building comes in under budget and there's some funding left there. And then the third thing could be the use of our interest revenue. Those are 3 things that that are lurking out there. And the reason that they're lurking out there and we haven't used them because they're not measurable, but that may add up to an opportunity for us to get that addition, or get us halfway there, or get us a portion there, and use a hybrid of variable items to get us to where we need to be. But at least this opportunity lets us ride a little bit to where we could get closer to where those other variables are more measurable.
Member
Yes,
Gator?
ma'am.
So Dr. Rock, could you just repeat the three different items that you just mentioned? You said interest revenue, funds left over from construction, and one other thing?
If we sell the remaining buildings after they're torn down, if we sell the properties or sell the property.
Okay, so Dr. Rock, is this something that permanent improvement funds could be used for, depending on the cost, or a portion of it?
Yes, and we could use permanent improvement. But so that's a 5th variable.
Okay.
So I also want to say this though, all these properties could be very profitable, and thinking out the box, they could become revenue streams for us for 30 years, 40 years. So I implore the board that we're going to explore every creative opportunity for the properties so that they become revenue streams. I mean, the last resort would be to sell them and just take 300,000 or whatever. Yeah. Because if we could get 100,000 a year for 30 years, that would ensure that the district has revenue streams. So our goal, Dr. Rock and myself goal, is to maximize the profit for all 4 properties. If the board does today, if the board elects today to approve the board move, and we have 4 properties, we are the biggest land owners in Warrensville Heights. We got the most property in the city. And we have to hold our cards close and maximize what the profit would be from all 4. So again, this is going to be a different time, a creative time. I think we got some great minds at the table to try to determine what happens, what's the best usage, how do we maximize the profit on all 3 of our properties, potentially 4, because we have a great opportunity. There's a need for new housing in Warrensville. There's a need for the hospital needs places for their doctors to stay and nurses to stay. There's a lot of options and opportunities in the city for all 4 properties. And then, you might get a deal with somebody want to buy it, because you're dealing with 9 acres. I just use Eastwood, 9 acres of land. So it's a lot of opportunities here for us.
All right.
Are any other questions on this? I want to move on, but go ahead, Doc. Next, anybody else any question?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
All right, so that leads us to the new elementary school. So as of today, Ms. Bishop will be 2 to 5. Mrs. Thompson will be pre-K in 1. So basically the same situation as we have now with Ms. Bishop taking over Westwood. As I shared the last board meeting, October 31st, we get the keys to the new building. So we want to do a phase-in move, which will entail probably Eastwood going first to the new building around Thanksgiving break. So we'll move Eastwood in first during Thanksgiving break, because we need to see how these routines and protocols gonna happen at this building and how people come and go before we put this kindergarten and pre-K in there. So we want to master the upper grades first, and then we'll bring the younger grades at Christmas. So there'll be a committee that will plan all that. I will be giving updates to the board. But the first move would be during Thanksgiving. The moves are they're real simple. Basically, teachers will pack up all their own personal stuff, or we'll give them 3 boxes, 2 boxes. They'll pack their boxes. We'll assign them their room number, and then a mover just come pick it up and then put it in their new room. Very simple process. I've experienced it on numerous occasions. The budget. So as Dr. Rock shared, we've had some hits to our budget that we are trying to compensate for. And I just want to inform the board of some of the steps that we're taking to ensure, because we want to keep our workforce as much as possible, but with the variables that exist, we've taken steps to try to mitigate any losses that's possible. So with that, we are only hiring essential people. So essential people are, if we need the teacher, and that teacher is an important part of the schedule or an essential part, we are hiring that teacher. Other than that, if we losing people, we're not filling the position. We are trying to take whatever losses through attrition. Any event that we need a position, then those are the only positions that we'll bring to the table. I know this year we need a physical education teacher because our only physical education teacher at the high school retired, and we didn't have anybody at the lower grades that we could bring up because of our enrollment. So we are being very selective on filling positions so that as Dr. Rock's 5-year forecast, we are able to maintain our levels and not have to release or do a reduction of force. That's the last thing we want to do. We'll take every step we can to prevent that from happening. Dr. Rock, you like to add anything to that, or?
But that's perfect.
Okay. And then the last is the rec center, and I do want some feedback on that. So we had a meeting today to discuss the rec center and the reopening of the rec center. And there's been a lot of, we decided today that we're not real comfortable with opening it yet until we get more guidance from the governor. So the recommendation, and we do want feedback, is that the rec center remains closed until further notice. We propose opening the track from 7 to 3 every day for any senior citizen, because a lot of senior citizens walk and they want to walk. So while we have staff at the high school, we will open it at 7 in the morning, close it at 3 for anybody who want to walk the track. But that's our recommendation until we get further guidance to understand we have questions on how many people can come in. The gym, there's been no guidance on basketball or anything, the weight room and all these different things. So that's our recommendation, is to keep it closed until further notice. We will open the track for the daytime and let people walk, and then that's it. And then as more information comes out. So the pool, I'll tell you this, the pool will be closed all summer. We won't even open the pool. Pool will be closed. Prayerfully, if we get guidance in the fall, we'll open the pool. But at this time, there's no need us even filling we took all the water out to fix something in the pool. No need us even filling it up. So the pool is empty. So the pool will be closed, and the rec center will be closed until further notice. So any questions or comments, we're open to it because we have not made any announcements, anything. But I want to get the board's feedback before we made any announcements.
Board, are there any questions?
Ms. Gator?
Yes. So no, I just want to say I agree. I'm sorry.
We've got something
You're
going on because we've got an echo. We've got feedback.
Oh.
Can you still hear it?
I can hear. Okay.
The feedback, the echo?
It's gone now.
Okay. No, all I was going to say is I agree with your recommendation to not open. When you think about the individuals that are impacted the most by COVID-19, it's going to be your elderly, senior individuals. So I think for the safety of our staff as well as for others, you guys are making the right decision.
Thank you.
Mr. Jolley, my question is, understanding that we do have to maintain the 6-foot distancing, if we open the track, which I think is a good idea to give them some place to walk, where it's a little more safer than walking in their neighborhoods. How will we maintain that distancing while they're walking and keep them from congregating?
See, that's another question. Like, do we even open the track up? Because there's no way we're gonna have anybody sitting on the football field all day. So that's the opposition to opening up the track.
Right.
I see both sides of it. If we don't want to open the track, because there's no way we're gonna be able to maintain. So there's no way we're gonna regulate the social distancing on that track. No way. There's no way. So I'm not opposed to not even open the track to say everything closed. And actually, we only got a month on the track because on July 6th, that's when Infinity will take over the track to start the new, start the process of building a new high school.
I can't speak for the board, so I'd love to hear what everybody else thinks, but I think since we're in June, we're in May, it's 1 month, and I think that puts us at a very liable spot if we open it, because we cannot maintain safe distances. And I think it's in our best interest to just leave the track, just leave it closed.
I agree.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to.
Yeah, I totally
Needed
agree.
that
because-
feedback.
I totally agree.
I appreciate that. So we will not open the track. We will make an announcement tomorrow and share with the community and public that the rec center and track are closed until further notice. But by the time the rec center open, the track will be gone. Outdoor track will be gone, more than likely.
Right.
So that's where we are. Okay, well, I appreciate that. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Thank you so much, Mr.
think we're
Jolley, and
good.
everybody.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jolley. Doug, thank you for joining us. The report that you provided to the board for Eastwood was extremely thorough.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice
Westwood.
evening.
You do
You
the same.
too.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Dr. Rock, I'm not going to pull the agenda back up. You are next on the agenda, item 1.6.
Thank you. Okay, we had, can everybody see the shared screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. We had our finance committee update, the finance committee meeting. It was a great meeting. We really went into depth. In fact, the members that were there, they're probably gonna say, how did you combine all of that onto one slide? So this is truly a summary. We met on the 14th. We discussed local revenue and what local revenue is. And local revenue is, in essence, the tax revenue that we get from our taxpayers. We reviewed various categories of levies and terms of levies. I explained how House Bill 920 limits local revenue for the district with examples. And we discussed the upcoming emergency levy renewal in November 2020, which the first step for that is on the agenda tonight. And we also reviewed the key components of the May 2025 year forecast. So moving into the 5-year forecast, and we've had some pre-discussion on this, and here's where the rubber meets the road. So the biggest question is, how will the current recession due to the coronavirus pandemic impact the forecast? It will impact us in 4 items. The first one is interest rates, general property tax collections, state funding cuts, and health insurance. The impact on interest rates is we're already feeling that already, and interest rates were already on a decline anyway, so this just accelerated the decline. If you notice, in December of 2019, the Star Ohio rate was 1.85%, and you can see that today it's 0.7. So as these interest rates decline, our interest revenue will decline. And that's projected in the 5-year forecast. This is how it's projected in the 5-year forecast. You can see in 2017, we had $158,000 of interest revenue. And this is where it started growing because we were investing more. We had more of an investment portfolio developed. Last year, we hit 716,000. This year, we're due to hit 755,000. Next year, I'm cutting that in half due to interest rate falling, and then even cutting down another percentage to flatten it out at 283 until we have further information of the direction of the recession. So in other words, as we get moving along, we'll be able to project this further when we get into those outlier years. So remember, lower interest rates means lower interest revenue for the district. General property taxes. If you look at this line item, we have a 3% reduction in collection rate is projected. But as we discussed in the Finance Committee, the projection on general property taxes involves three major items that variables that we project for each variable: assessed value, the tax rates themselves, and then a collection rate. All three of those are projected, and then that becomes your projection. So that's so we factored in a 3% reduction in collection, noting that there's going to be businesses and individuals that may not pay their taxes. Eventually that will be made up, but we know that at the beginning part of the recession, there's going to be lower payments. So this is what we're projecting. Also in that line item, you'll notice that it's going down also, and that is because the emergency levy is expiring, and that's next year. So you can see the amounts going down, and we're projecting it to renew. And the reason we're projecting that is because it's renewed every 5 years since 1990. The emergency levy is about $1.8 million for the district. And by it renewing, it protects that revenue source. And if it fails, we would lose that revenue source. But that's why we have to combine these two line items to actually see what the projection is for general property tax. So that's what I'm doing with this slide. State funding. Everybody heard the news. The governor is cutting state funding immediately now in May and June. For our district, the loss is $400,000. And then in the future, we're projecting a 10% cut after review with my colleagues. And after that, in our projection for the school district, we have a flat growth rate, but also that takes into account increased enrollment, the enrollment growth supplement that's also due to us. The remaining formula is still applied to the projection with a return to at least the frozen amounts from 2019. Health insurance. The industry growth rate has been 13% pre-coronavirus. Right now, I'm putting in a growth rate of 20%, anticipating again the recession and the cost of health insurance is going to go up. They're projecting that because of the utilization and the impact of the virus itself. So there's a 20% increase projected for 2021, 22, and then tapering off to 15 and then 13. So all of those items are in our 5-year forecast. The key line item that we look at with our board policy on deficit spending is line 6.010. That's like the net income line. It's the excess revenue over or under expenditures. This is the line that depicts deficit spending, or if you're spending within your current resources. However, due to the emergency levy being projected as renewing, that's reported in a lower line item. So we have to look at two line items to actually see if there's deficit spending or not. So if we look at it that.
Lost his audio.
Dr. Rock, I think you froze. We'll just give him a second.
See, in 2021. Am I back?
Yep, you're back now.
Oh, okay. I didn't do anything.
No, probably the internet service.
Okay. Okay, so in this one, you could see where in 2021, there's a deficit of $1.5 million. In the next line, you can see with the renewal of the emergency levy, we have 900,000 coming in. So we have a deficit of 569,000. The following years, you could notice that we end with a positive amount after the cumulative balance of renewal of levies. So what the phenomenon is here is that we're having so many, the cuts in the initial years and the initial parts of this recession that's projected in our 5-year forecast is hitting us in those initial years. And the renewal of that emergency levy is helping us greatly. So you can see how important that revenue stream is for us. So with that in mind, we will have that deficit in that first year. Mr. Jolley and myself will submit an action plan to the board according to board policy that we've established. And that action plan, we have 2 great resources that are not projected in here for the specific reason that we need to sharpen our pencil and show exactly how these things are going to be used. The CARES Act with federal stimulus funding is $955,000, which alone will eliminate that $569,000 deficit. And we also have further anticipated budget reductions, what Mr. Jolley was alluding to in the beginning, that right now they're estimated at 400,000, but we will be coming back with the exact numbers on both of those and how the CARES Act will be impacted on the general fund. In other words, if we spend the 955,000 with the CARES Act fund, that'll lower the general fund. So then our 5-year forecast, the deficit will be eliminated. So the summary of the 5-year forecast, all 5 years are funded, which is phenomenal for our district. The impact of the coronavirus pandemic is projected as noted above. Deficit spending in 2021 is addressed and an action plan will be presented, and we have good revenue streams that will cover that deficit. And the emergency tax levy is projected to be renewed. So all in all, we're going to weather the storm. It's still a storm coming, but if the storm gets even worse, then we have to adjust accordingly. The emergency tax levy, it's an emergency amount of 1.8 million. It's a 5-year term, so every 5 years it's up for renewal. It will be up for renewal in November 2020. Tonight we're doing the first step to start that process. And remember, renewal is no increase in taxes, 0 increase in taxes. It protects $1.8 million of tax revenue for the district. Some of the other line items that are on the agenda tonight is the comp management retro program with BWC, where we pay a fee to be in the program, but then the return is 5 to 6 times more in savings. So it's a cost benefit for us to join that. And we have historically. The return of advances from the general fund, these were advances that the general fund put out at the beginning of the year to various state funds. And now that funding has come in. So now we could return the money back to the general fund. So that's on the agenda. Comfort systems maintenance agreements for HVAC. These are annual contracts that we have. And then also the resolution for the emergency levy, which again protects $1.8 million for the taxpayers. And then that concludes my section.
Thank you, Dr. Rock. I have one question before we open the floor. The CARES Fund, does that money have to be used in specific ways, or are we able to use it as we deem necessary based on district need?
It is restricted, but when you read the descriptions on what it could be used for, it's very well defined on, it's very wide and has a lot of good opportunities for us to use it for. I should say the restrictions aren't as restricted as normal grants.
Right, they're not as prescribed. It allows us to work within our needs to meet their confines that they've noted.
The spirit of that funding was to make sure that districts can really use it for their operations.
Right. That's kind of how I thought I read it, but I wasn't sure. Thank you. Board, are there any other questions?
I have none, Madam Chair, none.
All right, if not, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And we will move into item number 2. I need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda the treasurer's report and financial recommendations, and that will be 2.1 through 2.5.
Madam Chair, I move on item 2 on the consent treasurer's report and financial recommendations. I'm looking for items 2.1 through 2.5.
May I have a second, please?
A second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call roll for the vote?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Let me see here. I'm not sure what's happening. She's doing a thumbs up.
okay. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, board. Next on the agenda is the emergency levy resolution. And we need a motion on the floor to approve the resolution to seek certification with the county fiscal officer in order to renewal of the existing emergency tax levy. This renewal of the existing tax levy will not increase taxes for the taxpayers in our district. May I have a motion on the floor for us to approve this?
Quick question, Madam Chair. Does that resolution have to be read or no?
Dr. Rock, correct me, but I think we can just read the rationale.
Yes, correct.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that this board approve item number 3 on our agenda for the emergency levy resolution.
Second the motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
She's doing a thumbs up.
thank you. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next on our agenda, excuse me, is section 4. We would require a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action for administrative staff. And this would be item 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4.
Madam Chair, I move for the consent on item number 4, the actual items, excuse me, I'm sorry. Let me get back to where I'm at. Item number 4 for the superintendent's recommendation presentations for board action administrative staff. I'm looking for items 4.1 through 4.4.
May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion?
Just a comment. I just want to congratulate all 3 of the individuals that are on this. I know we've got Mr. Vaughn, who's going to be the new high school principal, as well as the fact that Dr. Reynolds is getting ready to be the director, I guess you could say, for the COVID-19 and wellness program, as well as Ms. Bishop. So congratulations, and I'm really excited to see what next year will be like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, are there any other comments?
None.
Thank you. I think we speak on behalf of the board when we say how proud we are of the changes that we're getting ready to see take place. We're very excited to see you move into your new positions, and we do look forward to great things to come. So again, congratulations. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. And again, congratulations, team. We are really excited to have you on board. All righty, next on the agenda is item number 5.
Ms. Mitchell, can we item 3 make a quick comment now?
Absolutely, go right
All
ahead.
right.
Oh, I missed
So
what you
we
said.
start
Thank
with
you.
Mr. Vine.
All right, thank you.
We can start with Mr. Vine.
Let's see, I think he's on. There you go.
Yes.
There he is.
Can we
got
put
it.
them on screen?
I got it.
First, I just want to say thank you.
Here,
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very humbled by the opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity. I embrace the opportunity. And I wanted to say thank you to I'm sorry. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Jolley for recommendation, but also to my staff from Westwood. It's not just Mr. Vaughn moving, it's the work that we put in as a unit, and we're all moving. So it means a lot. I won't let you guys down. And we got three words just to embrace the traditions of Westwood, Warrensville, exhibit just overall transparency, for the students, the staff, and the kids. And last but not least, ensure greatness. My motto was second place is the first place loser. So the goal is to perform. So thank you for the opportunity. I won't let you down.
All right, sir.
All right, next, Ms. Bishop.
Well, good evening, board and superintendent. I'm humbly proud to continue the great work that Mr. Vaughn and his team have done at Westwood. I am hopefully optimistic and can ensure that we'll do a great job of blending both Westwood, Eastwood together. And I'm looking forward and excited to the work that my esteemed colleague, Ms. Thompson at John Dewey, what we're doing so far with the literacy program, a literacy cohort. So we are ready and geared up, excited to go. And we embrace the superintendent's motto of the one team, one vision, one goal. And I'm excited. So thanks again, and we're ready to work.
Thank you.
All right, so next up, Dr. Reynolds.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just want to tell you right now just how excited I am to continue to be a part of this amazing team, from board members to the superintendent, all the way down to teachers and staff members. This has been a great experience for me since 3 years ago. I've just fallen in love with this district and the direction. I always tell everyone that I came into the district at the right time, where everything is changing and everything is improving, and we're on an upward path. And I'm excited to be moving into this new opportunity to really start focusing my work on just taking care of kids. Now, COVID is a huge part of it, but a lot of this is just basically taking care of kids and working with teachers to help them to take care of kids. So I'm excited about this opportunity. I'm even more excited to continue to be working here at Warrensville. This is a great opportunity for us to continue to move forward. And thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank each of you. Looking forward to great things as we share.
Right. Good team.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you.
All righty, next on the agenda is item 5. And I do need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action.
I'm sorry, I was gonna say you're no longer sharing, Madam Chair.
I know I wasn't.
All right.
I was reading. I have the agenda printed. Just
Okay,
give me a
I
sec.
apologize.
That's okay. Approved by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action certified staff, 5.1 through 5.11.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve item number 5, consent superintendent's recommendation and presentations for board action classified action certified staff. We're looking for items 5.1 through 5.11.
Thank you. May I have a second?
A second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly seconded. Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin.
Hands
Oh, we
up.
had her.
She's doing thumbs up.
Okay. Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes, motion passes 5-0.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
You know what? Thank you, because I did forget to ask if there was any discussion.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
If you got a question, go ahead.
I do. Mr. Jolley, I was wondering if when it comes to the, what do we call them? The mentors, is that the resident educator program?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you maybe speak to the fact that we've got like a couple of teachers that have multiple people that they mentor?
Right. So as you know, our district has turned over tremendously. We have almost, I would say almost 60% new teachers. So there's a certain amount of criteria in order to be an eligible mentor. So since we don't have a lot of people that has met the criteria, we have a very minority amount of people that can mentor people. So that's why we have a few people doing a lot of different people, because of our staff is a relatively young staff. I think almost 40% of our staff is like within the first 3 to 5 years of their contracts, or first 3 to 5 years of in education. The union contract establishes that you have to be in our district for a period of time before you can mentor someone else. So that's why we have that situation.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was really all I wanted to ask. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Also wanted to comment on, I just appreciate the board approving this union contract extension. That gives us some labor piece for this school year as we enter this new domain of COVID-19 and figuring out how to adjust the school going back. So I appreciate the board allowing us to come to that agreement. And I also want just to add that another reason a teacher has to be a teacher in our district for 5 years to be a mentor. So that really cuts the amount of teachers down that can be mentors. I just wanted to add that the time frame is 5 years.
And do they have to be tenured?
No, I don't have to be tenured, just 5 years in our district.
Okay.
To be a mentor.
If there's no further questions, excuse me, we can move to item 6 on the agenda, and we need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for board action classified staff. This includes 6.1 through 6.6.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve number 6, consent superintendent's recommendation and presentation for board action classified staff. I'm looking for items 6.1 through 6.6.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Board, is there any discussion?
No.
If
None
there's
for me.
none, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes. Thank you, board. Motion passes 5-0. We are at item 7, and we'll need a motion on the floor to approve by consent agenda superintendent's recommendations and presentations for personnel and programs. That would be item 7.1 through 7.6. But before we render this vote, Dr. Rock, we don't have to approve site 7.1 individually, correct?
No.
Okay, then we go back. We need a motion on the floor. Again, consent agenda for items 7.1 through 7.6.
Madam Chair, I move that this board approve on consent agenda the superintendent's recommendation and presentation for personnel and programs, looking for items 7.1 through 7.6.
May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's moved and properly seconded. Board, the floor is open for discussion. Is there any discussion?
So I'd just like to make a comment, if I can, about the lease for the city. So look, I know I asked 1,000,001 questions. I poked, I prodded, I researched up on the internet. I really just had to make sure that this was something that I was informed about. You know, and when making this decision on how to vote, I really also had to look at the challenges, and a lot of those challenges were discussed today. The fact that our enrollment is increasing, the challenges that were discussed with the pandemic, you know, all the different budget cuts that we're going to be experiencing potentially. And then even the fact that enrollment is in limbo for the most part because of the pandemic. So again, I just wanted to be sure that I understood the financial impact that this type of a venture was going to have on the district. You know, I know initially looking at what Dr. Rock presented to me, I wasn't looking at, I was trying to compare apples to apples, and I couldn't do that because that's not the way it was laid out. So look, I spoke to like former superintendents, someone who I'd you know, really look up to, just to kind of get some feedback on, am I looking at this the right way? And at the end of the day, what I decided is I have to do what I think is best. And I have to do what I think is best for students and just follow my own instincts. So that's what I'm going to do when I make this vote today. And I really just kind of want to finish it all up by saying thank you to Dr. Rock and to Mr. Jolley and to Jason and to the board for just being patient with me while I try to come to terms with what it is that we're trying to do. And I really do think that I've got a good handle on it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for everything.
Is there any other discussion? If not, there's something I'd like to share. I do want to thank Jason, Dr. Rock, Mr. Jolley. You all have worked diligently with the city since the board gave you all permission in, I believe it was November, at our November 2019 meeting. And the information that's been presented has been, for some of us, very clear. I think initially we asked very good questions. We were able to bring the right resources on board to help us wade through all of the intricacies of our finances, as well as the other buildings, what the nuances were to going into this very unique but really great opportunity for our district, the savings that it will allow us over time. Dr. Rock, thank you again for the diligence that you paid to making sure that the monies that will be, if we vote yes on this, allocated for the payment of the monthly lease amount was more than equitable based on what we might ultimately wind up paying on a mortgage for a new building. Because I think as the board and as this community knows and understands, there was just no way we can continue staying in the current building that we're in. So I do ask every board member to please vote their conscience. I will say that all 5 of us looked at this not only from our own perspective, but all of us are here and we've each been challenged to look at all the work that we do from the lens of our scholars. The scholars come first, then we have to take care of the rest of the community. So it was not just one board member looking at it from that perspective, it was all 5. And I do want to thank everyone for the diligence that has been given to this initiative. So if there's no other comments, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll?
Madam Chair, I do have a comment.
Oh, okay.
I also want to thank Russell and Russell firm for actually looking at this lease. I want to thank Jason for putting it together and going back and forth with the city. I want to thank Dr. Rock for looking at our financial piece in this whole play on moving. One thing about life, change is hard, and it's hard to grasp the change of things. Just to give you guys history, I was in pre-K at that building. I was in pre-K. I was sitting on the floor with milk box cartons playing, and I still have the Warrensville Circular somewhere in that building, that 1927 building. It's time for a change. We're getting new schools, but I want to make sure the financial piece is there. And I think it is, and I want to thank Dr. Rock again. When we got voted in, each and every one of us as board members, we're supposed to do the business of the board and for these children. We got to take care of them, but we also have to take care of our administrators, our superintendent, our CFO and treasurer. And to have them in that building, which I stated in a meeting in 2016, is no way that they should be in that building. We looked at all options, and this was the best option for this school district. A lot of people may not like it, they might not agree with it, but it's the best choice for Warrensville Heights City School District, and all 5 board members will make that decision here shortly. But Madam Chair, I want to thank you for your leadership in this whole situation. And I want to thank you for being strong with some of the attacks that may have came to you. But I'll thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so very much. If there's no other comments, Dr. Rock, can you please call the roll? And again, I will ask each board member to please vote their conscience.
Miss Mitchell, can I make
Yes, sir.
a comment real quick?
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to say, again, to the board, I appreciate all the questions, the pushing, because again, this is a historical, we're making historical changes in our city. You know, we're building all new schools, we tearing down old schools, things that people are have historical linked on and thought as institutions of Warrensville. So making these moves, I am making these recommendations, bringing things to you and sharing the information. I don't think none of us is taking this lightly because there's very serious consequences with the decisions. And I wanted to say, I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the pushing to make sure that we get it right. Because I now had a conversation with a board member today, actually Ms. Gator, and we were talking about 10 years from now and how we will leave the community and district. And, you know, we talk about this and no fault of anybody in the past, but a lot of the situations that we're dealing with now are because of years ago, people punted the ball to us. So I think now we're taking the ball and we're trying to make decisions that 10 years from now, 20 years from now, the people who are sitting in these seats have a much easier way. They're able to focus on educating the kids, not building new things and all the things that we're focusing on while we're educating kids. It's almost like the poem that I read, The Builder, in which it talks about building a bridge over a river that was hard for us. I think we're building that bridge so that the future can have things much easier and able to do things much better. So I appreciate the board and your trust in us, Dr. Rock and myself, to bring you recommendations that benefit not only the people of today, but the people of tomorrow too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Rock, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mr. Roberts,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman,
Yes.
Miss Mitchell.
Yes. Vote passes 5-0. And again, thanks to everyone
All
involved.
right. Let's get out of 1927. Let's.
I'm sorry.
No, I was saying I'm happy that we're getting out of 1927.
Yes, I want to thank everyone again for the work that's been done. Great work, and I'm looking forward to brand new beginnings as we venture into another new horizon. So we're going to look out for great things now. With that, we're going to move to item 8, review of policy 5460.02 and then policy 5460, graduation requirements. And Mr. Jolley or Mimi, I'm not sure who's going to drive this conversation.
If you don't mind, I'll let Mr. Jolley, since, you know, this is something that falls in their wheelhouse.
Right.
Good deal.
Okay, you want to pull it up? You got it, Miss Mitchell?
Yeah, I think this is, it's, you know what, no,
Graduation requirements.
I don't have it open.
Oh, I have it. Hold on. So basically, board,
If you can pull it up, Mr. Jolley, that would be great. That way it can be seen.
Yep.
I had it. Hold
on. Let me stop sharing. I'm sorry.
Okay, Patches, I know you're out there, buddy.
Okay, Kayla, hold on, let me.
Let me see.
Now,
So
I'm gonna
this
put on-
policy, what I'm gonna do is, just to explain it, we need 2 readings before June 30th, correct?
Correct.
All right, so I think we'll be ready for the first reading. Because this one,
Are we off of them?
hold on, I'm about to pull it, I
Oh,
gotta get
you're
it.
pulling it, you're pulling it.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
trying to pull it up.
I was looking for it.
I need somebody to let me share the screen. I can't share it.
Tracy.
Let me see here.
All right, Patches, I know you're gonna have to wait.
Go ahead, sir. You should be okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to get it up. Let me see.
Mm.
Is it letting you pull up?
Nope, let me see. It's right here.
I can send it to you.
If you can send it to me real quick, Mimi. I'm not sure. I did give you permission to share. I'm not sure what's happening.
Yeah, I can't. Let me see.
Yep, hold on, I'm sending it now.
Oh, hold on. I think I
You
got
You
it.
got it?
Okay. Thank you. There you go.
All right,
Yeah.
so the first one is just making some adjustments to the graduation requirements. What our team would do is look at this and mirror it to what we currently have. But basically, what it is doing is fulfill one graduation pathway. This is due to the pandemic. And then like option 1 or 2, we would pick the one that aligns to what we currently have to make sure. So we have all of this. I think it'd be, if we have I don't know, our first meeting is June 3rd. What's the first meeting date?
Our
What's
board
our first
meeting?
meeting day in June? Yeah.
Our first board meeting is June 20. It's the last week of June. We only have one meeting.
Oh,
One meeting in
okay.
June.
But we sent this to the board, so hopefully everybody got a chance to look at it.
Yeah, so
Right.
what and my team and I were on this didn't align this to what we currently have. So there are some changes here, like the units required and all those things. We should have had this filled in. So I will own that. I apologize for us not having it filled in, but I do need to take this and fill in this to make sure it mirrors what we have. Because it waived some things in it, but some of the things are, I think some of our current policy already meets some of these requirements already. So I hope I'm explaining it correctly. So
Yeah.
we didn't take this, I didn't have our team go through this as they should. When it came up, I thought and I should have had them do it. So my request is that is it possible we can have a special meeting to go over to review this? Is that possible for the first reading?
So I have a question. A comment. We do have the opportunity to do an emergency vote and just pass it.
Yep.
Okay.
So once you all have the opportunity to fill in the units, make the proper selections, per Mimi's comment, if the board will be committed to going on and reading it and becoming familiar with what you've got in there, what you're recommending, and then you fill in those units, we should be able to come back in on June 30th and vote and the last meeting in
June
June
20th.
and vote and approve it.
Yeah, that'd be our second reading. Yeah.
Yep, so we should be good.
So what I would do is I would make sure I would have this to you by the end of next week.
Okay.
Filled out, completed, and done. So you have the whole month to look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, if I can, just so the board understands, part of the reason why this is kind of rush is because the new guidance from the state is saying we have to adopt these changes by the end of June.
Correct.
So that's the reason why we're doing the emergency portion of it.
So it will be done by the end of next week. I might have it done by the end of this week and giving it to the board. for immediate review, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mr. Jolley,
Yes, ma'am.
is it possible I can get a hard copy?
Yes, ma'am. I'll drop it off to you. No problem at all.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All righty. Excuse me. Thank you so much. And thank you, board, for understanding. These are some very interesting times that we're living in right now. And Mr. Jolley and Dr. Rock and their teams have had quite a bit on their plates. So we fully understand that you guys were not able to get to that, but we will make sure the vote is in and ready to go by the June 30th deadline. Next on the agenda is item 10. We don't have any unfinished business. So we're going to move to number 10, 10.1, legislative update. And Mimi, would you want to take the floor? Do you have any information to share, or will you just do a verbal update?
So hopefully everybody received the legislative update that I emailed them. I don't necessarily have to go through it if everyone read it, but a brief update is, as you all know, back in April, it was actually April 21st, myself, Superintendent Jolley, Dr. Rock, Board President Mitchell, we all sat in on a Zoom meeting with State Representative Juanita Brent. And really, she was just trying to find out what our concerns are, what our challenges have been with COVID-19 from an educational perspective. So she asked a number of different questions. Mr. Jolley did a wonderful job explaining what the district has done so far, what our stance is on different things. And she's taking that information and rolling it up to her legislative partners because they're going to be back in session. I think they're back in session now. So that's really what it was about. If anyone has any questions about it, I would love to, do my best to entertain the questions, but that's really all it was. It was a pretty long report.
Right.
So
Okay.
I don't think there's any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I do want to share that I want to give Mr. Jolley, again, kudos. Went in very prepared for the meeting, clearly articulated the needs for districts such as ours, but more specifically for our district. And reading Representative Brent's response, we were not the only district to state those needs. So my hope and prayer is that now, as the governor has cut funds, as they begin to rebuild the budget, as we return to work to some sense of normalcy, that as those funds begin to come back into the education system, that we will get what we need to move further with our education. And as we're working in a new environment with all the sanitizing needs for COVID-19, that they will be able to support us in those needs.
Madam
Can I
Chair.
add something, Ms. Mitchell?
Yes, sir.
And also, Mrs. Gator assisted me with contacting the OSBA.
That's what I was going to mention. Yeah.
Some budget data research that they were doing. I didn't want us to forget that.
No, yeah.
District, I responded with a letter how the pandemic is affecting us on our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted a very simple letter. I copied the board on it. I think it was 2 weeks ago that we did it. And Barbara Shaner thanked us for doing that because they're gathering the information from local school districts and they're going to bring it to the federal level to see how this is affecting public education. And two key things that I did put in my letter, we talked about our two major revenue streams, and we've covered that tonight, the tax collections, which are going to dip, and state funding. But what I did add to the letter is that those losses of income, what it would equate to if we had to replace it with a new tax levy. And I put that millage in there on that letter. So hopefully more school districts may follow that because that's an easy fact for them to understand. Sorry to barge in. I think you were going to say it anyways, Mrs. Gator.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. So thank you.
Thank you both. I want to again congratulate Mr. Vaughn, Dr. Reynolds, Mrs. Bishop, Dr. Rock, Mr. Jolley for an amazing job over these past months. Congratulations to the three of you in your new roles. And if there's nothing further, if we can have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Madam Chair, I do have an announcement that when me and you talked today, I have an actual CUBE meeting tomorrow at 3, but the actual CUBE annual conference in Houston is still on. They haven't canceled it out yet.
I'm sure we'll be seeing what's going to be happening state by state as the local and federal governments continue to say what will be happening with large groups.
Yeah.
So more to come. I have a feeling we may not be going anywhere, but we shall
Right.
see.
I think it'll be open. I mean, it's up to us individually if we go, but I don't think I'm going. So.
Well,
Oh, no,
again,
I'm
I
not.
think it will be driven by what the federal and local state governments are saying. And right now they're not allowing large groups. And I know there's some states that have canceled large events all the way through September. So we shall see.
But our beaches are still open. The beaches are open.
They can go.
Nobody's coming to Cleveland's beaches.
It's too cold.
Coming to Florida.
All right.
All right. If I can have a motion on the floor for adjournment, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting, a regular meeting, May 19th, 2020.
May 20th.
I second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Have a safe and hopefully a fun holiday weekend. I hope the weather warms up and stays warm.
Right.
Y'all take care now.
Be safe, everybody.